Okay, so we are starting day 3 for our informative communication notes. We are looking at we've already looked at the 4 different types. We have already looked at the introduction, but now we're going to get into the next part of your speech, which is going to be the body of the speech. So obviously, starting strong is very important, but it's also important to make sure that if you start strong, you continue strong. You can't just kind of give your statement a purpose and not really support it with anything else. So you have to figure out a way to bring it all together. So that gets done by having a very strong body in your speech. So what I mean by this is that you want to have a main point along with a support material. It says that you should have at least 3 points of support per main point. So you just want to be able to accurately explain each point that you're saying. So if in your informative speech you are trying to get a point across, you want to support it with maybe like 3 main points, and then support those with little individual sentences. So maybe like a 4 to 5 sentence like support for each main topic that you have. Okay. Now, this can be as easy as, according to this Harvard Study University, 85% of all statistics are made up on the spot. Or according to this research panel at J High School, and then whatever you want to say. But you want to make sure that you do support. Now, remember that when you're giving an informative speech to your audience, they can't fact check you in real time. So it is important that you try to make it seem as though the information that you bring up is as credible as possible or as believable as possible. So this is why we don't want to say, well, I learned from Wikipedia that Super Mario Brothers is actually based off of Christopher Columbus, because anytime that he's jumping on a Goomba, that's him explaining how he would terrorize the natives whenever he got there. I'm just kidding. But the whole idea is that you want to make sure that if you are bringing in support for what you're saying, it does make actual sense. Then, of course, you want to use actual facts about the topic and any definitions. So what I mean by that is, remember that there's 2 different types of definitions. There's our dictionary definition, like what a mother means in like a test, like is a mother this or that, the actual dictionary definition. And we also have an emotional definition, or our personal definition, which is the connotative definition. So a mother might mean something very specifically to you, and it might mean something specifically to someone else. But it's important to realize that there's 2 different types of definitions with most words. You can also use statistics about the topic. You can talk about 4 out of 5 dentists recommend that you brush your teeth after every meal. 5 out of 5 dentists recommend brushing your teeth in general. Okay, so using any kind of statistics like that. 75% of teachers usually know if they're going to stay in the profession after year 3, and then they also revisit the decision after year 5. That is something that I've seen in a lot of different articles when talking about education and all of that stuff. But that's something that obviously is important to me, since I've been a teacher for, at this point, 7 years. Then you can have specific examples, illustrations, anecdotes, personal stories, a third-person story, or a fake story. Even if you make up a story, just make sure that it sounds convincing, because remember, they can't fact-check you in real time. So the point is to appear to be informative, even if you know that the story that you're making is kind of false. Now, this can work for better or for worse, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your speech. If you're just trying to inform someone on, basic knowledge, and you're telling them like a fake story about a car accident, it's not really that big of a deal. But again, especially if you're like in a political campaign, it might be a good idea to not lie all the time. So you're telling us to be a good liar? No, I'm saying that if you are going to lie, do it in a way where it's not going to hurt anyone. Done. I like it. And then the last one is an expert testimony. So what a testimony is, it's like a personal story, a personal like account. And what I mean by that is, if you want to bring in an expert, so let's say that I want to do a speech on teaching science. I'm not a science teacher, so it would make sense for me to bring in a testimony, but I could bring in Miss Rizzo or Mr. Combs or Mr. Benuelos or any of those teachers that have taught science, and they can bring in their own expert testimony as to what it means to teach science. And then, of course, direct quotations. We covered this yesterday with the introductions, but the same thing kind of holds on to that. Your quotes are only as good as how you connect them. So, yes, Martin Luther King has a lot of great quotes. I'm trying to think of other. Who do people always use in essays? Rosa Parks has great quotes. FDR has good quotes. John Kennedy has good quotes. But all those quotes exist with or without you using them. So if you do decide to use them, make sure that you're using them in a good way. Okay. Because you can have the most beautiful pair of shoes, but if you just connect it to like an outfit that it doesn't match with, it's going to be really, really difficult for your audience to kind of follow along. So if you do use a direct quotation to support your speech, make sure that you connect it well to what you're saying as well, because John F. Kennedy isn't giving that speech. You're the one giving the speech. So you want to make sure that you actually do really listen to what they're saying. And you also do use what they're saying to further what you're trying to say. Okay, that's actually going to be it for the notes. That will be part 3. We'll get into part 4 after spring break.